This show is made possible thanks to the Key Person of Influence program, whose New York Times bestseller will show you how to perfect your pitch, get your book written, create a product ecosystem, raise your profile and partner with high performers. Yeah, all in one program. You can get a free hard copy of their wonderful book delivered to your door over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo. And we're also made possible thanks to the very good guys at Cornerstone. If you've got a whole lot of process-driven tasks that you're just not getting done in your business or doing them yourself, then think about getting a virtual assistant through Cornerstone. You can book a discovery call with owner David Warren now on 02 9083 6689. Today's guest was once a high-flying corporate lawyer. But that all changed when she met her beer-brewing husband in Hawaii. Now, they're the proud owners of the award-winning Burleigh Brewing Company on the Gold Coast. Here's cheers to that.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but you, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner and you are ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. Welcome back, whether it be your first time or your 100th time around. Love your work. Thanks for rejoining us. Big show today. Peta Fielding, co-founder of Burleigh Brewing, joins us to talk about her and her hubby created an amazing beer brand and tap house on the beautiful Gold Coast. I share another low-cost marketing idea in What Have You Got to Lose? Today's idea is just plain weird. And we go back into the Small Business Big Marketing Vault, revisiting a chat I had with LA fashion designer Melissa Coker, who had just created an amazing viral video called First Kiss. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at the Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Before we head over and meet Peta Fielding from Burleigh Brewing, just want to remind you I have an outsourcing tour to the Philippines coming up. It's tour number 4. It's happening March 27 to 29 in 2017, and it's an opportunity for you to join me for 3 days in the Philippines as we go and explore all the different outsourcing options available to your business so you can reduce your costs and create more freedom in both your business and personal life. It is mind expanding. Promise you. And you know what they say, the mind once expanded never goes back to its original dimensions, and I'm sure many past tour delegates would agree with that. March 27 to 29, you can find out all the details over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/tour. Coming up after this interview, I share another low-cost marketing idea in What Have You Got to Lose? But first, let's meet today's successful business owner. Now, how's this for a recipe for success? You cross a surf-loving Hawaiian young gun brewmaster with a Gold Coast girl who detoured through a career in corporate law while dreaming of creating a very special business. And you get the inspiration for one of Australia's leading boutique breweries. That Gold Coast girl is Peta Fielding, and the brewery is the Burleigh Brewing Company, a highly awarded brewery based in an industrial estate out the back of Burleigh Heads. I first came across Burleigh Brewing when emceeing an event there a few months ago. It's basically a very big tin shed where the beer is both brewed and served. Yeah, there's a tap house on site. Standing at the bar amongst all the plant and equipment, you can choose from 10 very tasty brews with names like My Wife's Bitter and the Hasselhopp. Got to love a brewery with a sense of humour. Everything about Burleigh Brewing reeks of perfection and a wonderful attention to detail. So that's exactly what I interrogate Peta about during this chat. I started off by asking her why she left her job as a high-flying corporate lawyer.
Who said it was high-flying?
There's a massive assumption there, isn't there?
Actually, it was pretty high-flying in many ways for a young, 20-something-year-old. Look, being a lawyer was always, for me, a step towards what I really wanted to do. And what I really wanted to do was create a really special business. And so I knew that, studying law was probably going to give me some great skills that would come in handy. And I knew practicing law for a little while also would obviously help kind of consolidate all the learning and put me in a few sticky situations to talk my way out of and all that kind of stuff. And it was a great, great learning environment for, what I now do in running a business.
That's interesting. And I don't think you're not the first lawyer to sort of have that idea in mind. Many don't want to spend their life in a courtroom. They, want to go off and create their own. Did you have an idea back then what that special business might be?
I had no clue, and to be honest, I didn't care. I knew what it was going to feel like. I just had this I could taste it,
Really?
In terms of I really could, and I didn't care whether it was shoes or aeroplanes or beer or, whatever it was. I wasn't, some people are really good at doing something and they turn that into a business, making things or whatever it might be, or even, go out and practice law on their own, I suppose. That's a business. But I didn't care. I just kind of had this always switched on sense of opportunity spotting, and not in terms of like a quick path to riches type of opportunity, but I just knew that if I just kept gathering the skills and being open, at some point it would become clear what it was going to be.
Describe the feeling.
Wow, I don't even know if I can voice it, but I knew that I wanted to have a business that left a mark, if you like. And it sounds really lofty, and obviously
go on, be lofty.
That's a global world beater or anything like that. It wasn't about size or scale, but it was about what it would feel like to work there, what we would, the impact we'd have on the community around us. Very much a local Australian focus for me was hugely important. So just kind of all little bits of elements like that. Was there
any part of it that, you're working in corporate, was there any part that you just wanted to escape the cubicle, or it was bigger than that?
No, it wasn't that. The only sense I ever had of that was the law firm I worked in was in the Stock Exchange building in Melbourne. There's the high-flying bit for you. But and it had a revolving glass door at the front, and there was one day...
and a glass ceiling.
Well, it was when I was really... One of these opportunities had come along. I had an opportunity to take up a scholarship to do an MBA in America, and it was that day of... Is this one of the steps I should be taking? Yep. And I walked into that door and circled around, and I thought, you know what, I don't want to be doing this circle for the rest of my life, kind of thing. Jump.
Nice.
So that's when I took the opportunity. Yeah, that was the only time I really ever had that feeling.
I love it. You're a very visual, emotional person, aren't you?
I am. Yes.
Yeah. The revolving door. I'm not going through that again. Hey, what about the feeling? So you went through that revolving door one last time,
Pretty much, yeah.
but you headed over to Hawaii to do an MBA. So you weren't going to start a business at that point.
No, because I still didn't know what And to be fair, I was still very young. I was in my mid-20s. Not that stops people, of course, starting businesses, but I didn't yet know what I wanted to do. And so, went over to Hawaii. It was at the time kind of studying
Can I just say, Hawaii and MBA don't seem
really
to go together,
does it? No. So just to explain, there was kind of a bit of science behind it.
Of course.
I had studied Japanese. I had lived in Japan while I was going to university for a year. That was kind of my other passion. Mm-hmm. And there is a program, I'm sure it still exists in Hawaii, that was an Asia-Pacific MBA program. And pretty much one person from 12 different Asia-Pacific countries get to go in each class, and it's a 1-year full-time program. And so it was a pretty unique, specialised and well-regarded program for that specific type of stuff. And so that was really the reason for going there. That's where it was offered. But, you know, I was pretty happy about if I had to study it, doing it in Hawaii was pretty cool. And as a part of that, we had to do an internship in Japan at the end of it. So it was a really specialised program.
Yeah, sounds really hard. And so you are at a party one night in Hawaii.
When I was meant to be studying.
Meant to be studying, and in walks hubby, future hubby Brennan.
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Pretty much. I was standing there talking to the host of the party, who I knew reasonably well, but I was kind of there through friends of friends. And
so you're sort of a plus two.
Pretty much, yeah. Brennan walked in, and so I really didn't know. I just stood back and watched what happened, and kind of put two and two together. Clearly what had been happening, the host of the party had just recently started to do some home brewing, and this person who had just entered the room was clearly somebody who he wanted to impress with his brewing and also get some advice about how good it was, and kind of gave a sample. And I watched this guy kind of taste this beer, and I could tell by his look on his face, he just wanted to go, oh, God, that's crap. But he went, Chris, let me tell you how you can improve this. And I thought, wow, what a cool guy. Yeah. And, that's where it all started.
Wow. So you start dating at that point. Brennan, your husband now, the fellow you're talking about, did he have a brewery in Hawaii at that point in time?
So at that point in time, he had done some brewing, or he did study engineering, didn't finish because he got an opportunity to essentially do a training course in-house in a German brewery in America. He had done that, and he had come back to Hawaii because a new brewery was opening, and he was the brewer who was going to help them get it open and get it started.
Okay.
So it was an up-and-comer, already kind of winning awards and doing things in the very early part of his career.
And I'm guessing back then, this notion of, what are we talking, boutique brewery, boutique beers, craft beers was...
Look, it has so many names thrown at it. They've all become a bit of kind of marketing stuff now.
Right.
Because
nothing wrong with that. You said that with a sort of negative tone.
But, boutique, craft, regional brewery.
Yeah, right. So pretty early days for that type of thing.
Well, it was here for sure. In America,
not so much.
It had been happening for, since the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, wow.
And so, that was part of the reason for us really seeing the opportunity to come back to Australia. And, on the one hand, obviously wanted to build my business in Queensland on the Gold Coast where I'm from. But being a part of the industry in America and seeing what was happening and just how vibrant and exciting it was, and really seeing that beer in Queensland was stalled back where it was however many years ago. We thought
4X.
All those, and others. And we thought we've got to come home and give the Queenslanders another option for those who want it.
Can you remember the moment, Peter, when you've gone, oh, actually, this business that I have felt so passionate about, but not knowing what it is, it's actually going to be a brewery?
I can remember a couple of things along the way, kind of sliding doors moments. And looking back, they're really clear. I don't know if they were at the time, but first opportunity was when Brennan came home one day looking pretty forlorn and said, and this was the brewery in Hawaii that he was working for, that the parent company had filed for bankruptcy and that the brewery had been dragged into it. And kind of clear as anything in that moment, I kind of took the path of saying, that's great, let's see if we can buy it, which was really a stupid kind of thing to think without until I sat down and thought, how are we going to do this? But, there was enough, I suppose, desire. We got together with a couple of the right people and managed to buy it and turn it around and then sell our share, which gave us the ability to really start planning what we wanted to do in Australia. And, to be able to sit down and start writing that business plan was, pretty exciting.
So just to be clear there, you bought the brewery that was going under in Hawaii. You was it just a wholesale brewery, or did it have a...
No, it was a brew pub. So it had a brewery inside of a 300-seat bar and restaurant.
My goodness, you became a publican.
Well, we were a bit smart in who we hooked up with. So we really were the brewing people, and one of the former restaurant managers was one of the other partners, and then more of a finance kind of a guy as well. So we, yes, we learned a lot. Brennan became an amazing cook and has cooked to this day ever since. I don't have to cook because he spent so much time in the kitchen at that place.
You're putting me to shame. Your husband's a great cook and he makes beer.
Exactly.
What more do you want?
But it was, so we learnt heaps, but we were, with a, carefully selected group of people to try and make it as manageable as possible.
There's it's just such a big story in itself. But you
I know.
I actually want to get to Burleigh Brewing because the way you've gone about that I think is amazing. So you sell your share in this business in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. You look hubby in the eye and go, it's time for us to go back to the Gold Coast. You're going to love it because he's a native Hawaiian. You come back here about just over 10 years ago from what I can understand. And
when was it? About 2002 we came back.
So and how was Burleigh Brewing born?
Well, we came to Brisbane, which is where my parents were, and we thought we're just going to give ourselves a little bit of time to research, suss out the market. Obviously, it's different from America. There's all kinds of different dynamics, whether it's liquor excise, liquor licensing, all kinds of things that can impact, you can't just pick up what you did in America and dump it here. Mm-hmm. So we spent quite a bit of time researching the market, and the two big things we had to figure out in our heads were exactly where were we going to put it and what size was it going to be. And that took quite a bit of research.
Well, with those two questions, you must have known what it was going to be.
Yes. We knew we wanted to do a production brewery, so a packaging brewery, not a brew pub. We knew that was how we were going to be able to make the best impact, I suppose, and provide the beer to as many people as possible. Obviously, in a brew pub, you're restricted to who walks in the door and has a beer. We wanted to be able to have something that could go out to venues and bottle shops and be another option.
What makes you think? What makes you think that your beer? This is not directed directly at you, but anyone, because there's a lot of brewers now. There are. I'm going to say there's thousands, just in Australia alone.
I think we're up to about 400.
Okay. So
I've
exaggerated before. My wife told me about a gazillion times not to exaggerate. But what makes you think, as a brewer, that it's your beer, and now you've got 10 different beers that tastes really good? Do you know what I mean? Because some of them.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Is
it a leap of faith?
Well, I knew that Brennan made damn good beer.
Oh, yeah, biased.
That wasn't a problem. He'd already won literally world awards, and
right.
We knew the quality wasn't a question in terms of his capability. Of course, every time you build a new manufacturing plant, effectively, it's one thing to be a good brewer, but you have to have the facility and everything to be able to produce day in, day out, put it in a bottle, make sure it stays good quality on the shelf. It's a big thing. But in terms of, certainly in those early days of the business, it was literally about providing another choice than, and we never started the brewery to become the biggest beer in Australia or to think that more of the market than not would move to our beer or anything like that. It was just about another choice. And behind that, we could kind of, I suppose, tap into various things that might mean people would like another choice, whether it was to do with flavour and different flavours in beers, because beer in Australia had become very homogenised. It was very single style, light straw-coloured lager, different colours on the label, but that was essentially the style of beer that was available, and it was what people knew as beer. We've met many people over the years who said, I don't drink beer, and we say, try this one, and they go, that doesn't taste like beer, and we say, it's just as much beer as that one, But so there was certainly the flavour side for those who were looking for something new, but there was also about, offering something that was truly locally owned, that was focused in very much on the community, and just a whole lot of other things that, people were into food miles and trying to buy things as close to home as possible, and lots of things that kind of come with the concept of craft, or originally craft beer, that is more than just the flavour alone. Of course, the quality has to be there.
So you set up this packaging brewery. You're making beer now on the Gold Coast as you wanted to. You But your facility now in at the back of Burleigh, I mean, I just think it's absolutely amazing. Where did, just to describe it, a big, glamorous tin shed full of brewing equipment, a great bar. I want to talk marketing later, but great packaging. Everything, is just right. How did you get to that point?
Oh, I'd love to say we just knew exactly what we were doing and, started to do it. There's been a lot of, not so much trial and error, but we had to work things out along the way. Some things I was very clear on. We knew that certainly, again, in the early days, and this was kind of the root of our packaging and the way we've gone with our branding, we knew we weren't going to be able to have big TV ads or billboards, and even if we could, we'd never be able to outmarket the big guys in that sense. So we almost needed our beers to be standing on the shelf looking so interesting that they were saying, pick me, in the bottle shop when people are standing there kind of scanning the shelves. And I think when you look at our packaging, you can see where that's come from. There's a lot of different colours. There's very unique labels for each of the beers.
Well, let's talk about that because you've nailed that. You have, let's just unpack that because there's plenty of people listening who would love their product or their service to pop, to say, pick me. You've got some great beer labels, just calling them up now: Twisted Palm, Hasselhoff, My Wife's Bitter, my favourite.
Mine too.
Oh, yeah, there you go. How do you make something pop? Have you just got a great designer?
Do you know, and I think this is the other part of craft beer and probably industries like it, and again, our whole approach to the business, and I guess where I was coming from, every single one of our beers actually comes from a real genuine story, and that makes the development of the brand actually fairly simple. Not simple in the sense that it still takes a lot of time, and we've spent a lot of time agonising over getting things right, but the path itself, quite simple. So take My Wife's Bitter, for example.
Yep.
When our kids were born, we had the little brewery in Hawaii. It was very easy to name a new beer because all you had to do was write the name on the blackboard because it was brew pub and you were done. You didn't have to develop packaging, blah, blah, blah. So when our kids were born, the next beer that Brennan brewed after each of them were born was named after them on the blackboard in the pub. And I used to say to Brennan, for goodness sake, I had those kids. They've got to be named after them. Where's mine?
Yeah.
And literally I was hanging out the washing one day and I was just kind of boom. I thought, I know what I'm going to get him to make me. And that's how My Wife's Bitter was born. And so, but then of course, when it came to the label, we said to the designer, okay, it's called My Wife's Bitter, but you know what? There's nothing bitter about it. It's actually fun and we don't want kind of a skull and crossbones with crossed rolling pins or something on the on the label. We wanted to tell a different story. So that's kind of how that one evolved. We have one called 28 Pale Ale, which is we had read a story about this perfect 28-day swell on the Gold Coast in the 70s at Burleigh Heads, and we didn't know whether it was true. We didn't want to use it if it wasn't true. So we spent a lot of time researching, getting in touch with old surfers. They probably won't like me calling them old, but they're like the original core crew when the first kind of world tour was starting, all those things. And it drew out, we had this amazing email chain going of former world champions and all kinds of people who were there at that time reminiscing about, remember you'd been surfing so much you called in sick to work and couldn't even stand up. Like it was amazing to kind of just have this whole time rejuvenated. And that's where, at the same time in the 70s, that was when there was some significant development happening in California with hops that really led to the initial burst of new flavours in American craft beer. Is that the
Sierra Nevada beer that you...
It is indeed,
there you go.
So, and around that time, I suppose others were coming as well.
So what's very apparent here, Peter, is story. Story for you is a way of developing a foundation for every product, for everything you do within the Burleigh Brewing brand, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I'm looking at your website now, and for every one of your beers, there's story attached to it, and great. Story sells.
And I think what makes it actually work, though, is that they're true. So we didn't sit around in a room and go, let's think up a story for this beer. which I think can happen in a smaller business. It's bigger businesses have to get the whole marketing team together and go, okay, we want you to create something that's going to hit this target market and it's going to, blah, 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 and they make up a story. When it's small, you can be real.
Listeners, I'm talking to Peta Fielding, who is one of the co-founders with hubby Brennan of Burleigh Brewing, a fantastic brewery in the back blocks, dare I say lovingly, of Burleigh Heads on the Gold Coast. I want to talk marketing, Peta, and there's a couple of quotes from you that I love. One is that you said, quote unquote, what Brennan had was too good not to share. And I know you're talking about his beer brewing capabilities there. And the other one is, you talk about him being a perfectionist. You're both perfectionists, and you say we make awesome the new standard. And that seems to be how you go about creating this Burleigh Brewing brand. Is that right?
Yeah, look, it absolutely is. In terms of what Brennan, wanting to share Brennan's abilities and skills and so on in Australia. That in those early days of writing the business plan and getting things up and running, even for me, who was so driven to make it happen, and I knew exactly what I wanted it to be and so on, there were still those moments of actually going from business plan to taking the leap off the cliff and actually doing it. And there were a few things there. One really big thing was that Brennan was commuting to Brisbane from the Gold Coast to work in a brewery in Brisbane, and we had very young children at the time, and I'd be tucking them into bed, and they'd say, "Why don't we see Daddy in the morning, and why don't we see Daddy at night?" And I'd remember again the feeling of just going, "Damn it, no one else is going to build this brewery for him. If I have to get off my butt and do it," kind of thing. So that was really a big part of the motivation. In terms of the making awesome, our standard is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's a high bar. It would put a lot of pressure on everything that you do. Yeah,
look, it does. But we if we're aiming for awesome, what is it? If you reach for the stars, you might land on the moon. It's that kind of a sense. But we don't always hit it. But before we jump in and do something, we want to make sure that it's going to be best, not just for that moment in time, but best for our business long term, for our people, for our products.
So how do you get people to buy into that? You've got 30 plus staff, you've got a load of suppliers. How do you get people? I think it's the business owner's constant problem of getting others to come along for the ride. How do you do it? It is. And we've had to get better at it. We started just as us, and then in the very early days, put on a couple of people, and really those days were just about everyone head down, bum up, get things done. And I think there was a time in the early days where we kind of put our heads up a little bit and went, we've got to look after these people and make sure they're on board with what, our vision and so on. And so we had to learn to do that as well. And I don't think there's any magic silver bullet. Do you have like a weekly meeting? Do you have some kind of initiation? We have a variety of things. Yeah, we have a variety of things. We have... Oh, goodness. This is what I mean. It's not like one thing. I think you have to try and just get it to permeate as many things in the business as you possibly can. And it could be, start with office layout or brewery layout. And when we moved the brewery, actually the workflow and where people would be working either alone or with each other, and this is even into the production area, and the safety thoughts went behind that. All of that really was about the people and the feeling of what it would be like to work in there. But we have, we celebrate anniversaries in the business. So when people have worked with us for 1 year, they get a custom surfboard with a message from Brennan and I on the back. When they've been there 5 years, they get a trip with their partner. It's because they're working for us, but it's their partner who they go home to when they've had a bad day and go. So we figure after 5 years, let's celebrate that. That's a couple of the the really identifiable things that we do. We I imagine the brand that you've built, you're not finding it hard to attract good people. I imagine they're coming to you. That was a real, I don't even know, not a surprise, but it constantly amazes me that people do get in touch, even when we're not advertising, just saying,
I want to work for your brand. And you just think, wow, because when you're in the thick of it every day, going hard work, you don't really have a sense of what you're putting out there.
But what a great acid test for you to sit back and go, we have created something that is now a draw card, that is a magnet.
It's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
You can choose. I mean, people are one of the greatest problems. Businesses without people would be fantastic, but that's not going to happen.
So, I mean, one of our kind of stated, I suppose, vision statements, if you like, is to be the brewery that other brewery employees want to work for and have the staff that other breweries wish they could have.
There you go.
And again, that's kind of our little awesome standard that we try and live up to with our people.
What's the hardest part of running Burleigh Brewing?
Oh, not drinking the profits. No.
So many lines there, not going there.
People say, I want to go into business to be my own boss. You go into business and actually you're your own employee. You're the one who has to step up. There's no option. You kind of, what I learned very quickly after starting the business and starting to employ a few people was actually what I created was a really big responsibility. And it's a responsibility I take very seriously, that I don't want to employ someone if I have to even contemplate, making them redundant or I really want to make decisions that are that aren't putting anyone's jobs at risk. Or, I've got this responsibility now. They've put their faith in me. They've said, yep, we'll come and work with you and help build your dream. And so I have a responsibility back to them. And I think in some ways, it's a heavy burden and it's constant, but it's also what drives me. And so it's the hardest and the best part of doing what I do.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, well, you exactly. I mean, it's a wonderful problem to have, really, isn't it? If you've got that many people relying on you and obviously loving. When I was at Burleigh Brewing a few months ago, the staff was so into what they were doing. I think it was quite a large function. There was about 5 or 6 staff behind the bar, and again, it's what attracted me to get into contact with you was that I don't know. There was just this. I just noticed this palpable love of the product. The pride in serving that product, the pride in standing behind that bar and looking out. I know I'm blowing your trumpet, but
I'm loving hearing it because as I say, it's really hard to feel what you're putting out there.
Well, I just think, it's interesting as a marketing guy, and I encourage all business owners to look out for these things when they are in other businesses. I mean, look at brands that you love buying from and ask, why do you love buying from them? And it'll be something around what they've done, whether it's the customer service or the customer experience, or maybe it's as simplistic as the visual branding, but all these things add up.
That's
to creating loyalty.
All the sum of the parts.
Yeah, totally. What's the best marketing? You talk a lot about community impact and local area. What's the best local area marketing that you do?
Oh, look, it's just become such a part of our everyday now that we've got kind of fingers and toes out into the community all over the place. But when we first started, having come from the American industry where everyone knew what craft beer was, people would ask for craft beer, what craft beers have you got on tap, blah, blah, blah. We opened up in Burleigh and it took a year to get the place ready, get the equipment in, get the brewing started. It was a long lead time. Opened the doors and expected the stampede and, no one was there.
Yeah.
And people didn't really know whether they heard the word brewing and they'd say, oh, are you making coffee? Or, and we just realised we've got a big mountain to climb here because, first of all, people don't know that a choice is even an option.
Did you panic?
First of all, we need to make people realise they have a choice. I don't think panic's the right word, but it focused us. Brennan and I were out in bottle shops doing beer tastings, and I'd call him and I'd say, we couldn't give away free beer. That's how bad it was. I'd call him and say, how many people have you convinced to try it?
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. So we realised pretty quickly that if we didn't get out there and kind of support and I expect respect and honour the community that we wanted to operate in, why should they turn around and pay any attention to us? And so from that very first day, really. The first thing we thought that we could do that was achievable, that wouldn't cost a fortune, was once a month open the doors to the brewery. I'd get behind the bar. Brennan would cook sausages on the barbecue, and all the money would go to a local community group or city club or charity or whatever. And that's just how we started to engage with people and do it by, I guess, giving, what do they say, paying it forward.
Yeah,
kind of
right.
thing. And that has grown into just an amazing program. It's upwards of, I don't know, $140,000 or something we've given through sausages.
Yeah, right.
It's evolved. We still do it to this day just because we love it.
Well, Bunnings do that very well too, and it puts a...
Yeah, we have better sausages.
I'll tell you what, that would be hard. I've cooked a few Bunnings sausages for various...
To be honest, well, that's the thing. I guess our spin on it was to say to them, and again, this was a hard sell. People were so used to being screwed. They were simply, sometimes people kind of go, oh, no, thanks. We'd say, you don't even have to provide the people to cook the sausages. You just rock up, tell the rest of your teammates that we're doing this for your club tonight, and all the money goes to you.
Love it. So tell me, just talking about local area, because you are in the back blocks of an industrial estate, you're not going to have drive-by people. You're not people going past,
right.
oh, hang on, there's a brewery, we'll drop in. You just don't. What's the split between your revenues, wholesaling beer?
Look, wholesaling is absolutely our core business.
Core business, okay.
The tap house, as amazing as it is
cream, so to speak.
It is, and it's more, that's another touch point for people to really come and engage with us, so that when they see our beer on the shelf, hopefully saying, pick me, they're saying, I want to pick you because I've got to know you and, I love it, and that's the beer I want to drink.
It is a destination. I had on the show a few months ago one of the girls from Spell and the Gypsy Collective, which is a wonderful fashion label out of Byron Bay. They're doing $20 million online, and that's their bread, and that's where they make their dough. But they have a shop in Byron, which again, it's not on the main drag, but it is a destination for people to come from all over the world. Yes, and I guess that's a bit what you've done with your tap house.
Absolutely, and it's as you know, the brewery is very open, so you can sit in the tap house and see the tanks and see the brewing and everything else.
Get
and
tanked.
It's
Hey, I did.
Yeah, well, did you? Don't say that. Very responsible.
No.
But it's even, without kind of saying then to people, we make everything here and we care about what we're doing. They can sit there and see it. We don't have to say it. They can sit and watch it and see how clean it is and all those things.
Peta, I love your story. Solicitor turned brewer, pub owner, hotel owner. I don't know. What do you write on your,
I don't know. I used to say CEO stands for just chief everything officer. That's kind of just how it...
I use that one.
Sometimes it's a rude word before everything. It's a really bad day.
I love it. Now, 5 quickies, Peta. Don't tell Brennan.
Okay.
Number 1, what was the first album you ever bought?
Oh, my goodness. I think it might have been Michael Jackson, sadly.
Surely not Thriller. It would be a prior to that.
Oh, actually, you know what? It probably wasn't. It was probably Madonna.
There you go.
Yeah.
Didn't mind a bit of Madge. Love Madge, actually. Now, if you could change one thing about your life instantly, what would it be?
Oh, wowee. My daughter would have her driver's license.
Yeah, there you go.
It's not too far off, but I'd like it to be now.
You're a bit overplaying taxi.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Completely over it. My son needs to get his. Will, if you're listening, start studying. What's the best book you've ever read?
Oh, wow.
50 Shades, did you say?
No, I haven't read that one. Do you know what? I'd have to say Screw It, Let's Do It, which was a Richard Branson
I haven't
book,
read that one.
Another one of those sliding moments that just booted us up the bum and said, bloody hell, get off your butt and do it.
Yeah, it was okay. I listened to an interview only recently, and he used that term. And sometimes they're sort of
just need a mantra to hang on to.
Yeah, sometimes they're platitudes. But when he was talking about it, it was like, you just do it. Take action. Something will result. If it's not what you like, then have another crack.
Exactly, you'll learn something.
What's something you've never told anyone? Not because it's a secret, but because you've just never told anyone.
Ooh. I'm a pretty open person. Wowee.
I love a pregnant pause.
I have no idea.
You're just really open.
I can't even think what I've never told anyone.
I'll have to reassess that question. It's way too hard. Finally, when was the last time you were embarrassed?
probably right then when I couldn't answer the question.
Good on you. Good on you. Peter, I love what you and Brennan have done. I think it's an inspiring story, and it's a great story of branding and just damn good beer, really. So well done, and thanks for being on the Small Business Big Marketing Show.
Thank you very, very much for inviting me.
There you go. Peta Fielding of Burleigh Brewing. Go and check them out, burleighbrewing.com.au. Fantastic, fantastic business. Coming up, I share my top 3 attention grabbers from that fireside chat with Peter. Plus, I've got another low-cost marketing idea for you. This one, it's a little weird. But first, here's a little something to create more freedom in your business. Do you find yourself spending way too much time working in your business? Spending precious time on tasks that, as a business owner, you really should be getting others to do? Or maybe you find yourself paying way above the odds to get these tasks done. Things like data entry, inbound and outbound calling, social media, website and diary management, all those things that just take up time. Well, it doesn't have to be that way. The sooner you offload this work and expense, the sooner you can focus on building that beautiful business of yours into the empire it deserves to be. And that's where Cornerstone steps in. Cornerstone is an Aussie-owned and run company based in the Philippines and are specialists in finding you full-time virtual assistants from as little as $8 an hour. The freedom this will create for you is unbelievable. As a Cornerstone client, Anna Davies said of her virtual assistant, and I quote, "He's incredibly pleasant to work with. Having him in the team is excellent. I can't imagine how our lives were without him." End quote. So go ahead and book a no-obligation discovery call with Cornerstone today by calling 02 9083 6689 or visit cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au. I believe in them so much, I own part of the business. This week saw the launch of an exclusive webinar series for members of the Small Business Big Marketing Club, of which I hope you are one. If you're not, it's not too late to join. I'll explain how later. Glenn Carlson, the founder of the Key Person of Influence program, joined us to explain the 9 steps he uses to create highly profitable partnerships. Here he is talking about the all-important first step.
Step 1 is, what are you trying to get done, right? What is the thing that if you were to achieve that thing would create a transformational order of magnitude? And by the way, this event took us from 0 to over $1 million in revenue in our first year, $1 million in profit in 2.5 years or so, just leveraging the strategy. But this was the starting point, and I want to unpack it to prove you don't need stuff to start with, because people now look at what we're doing and they go, oh, it's good for you because you've got the podcast and the brand and the events and the this and the that and the everything and the global business and whatever. Didn't have that at the start. Started with zilch, right? And so in 6 years, we've built a 20 million plus global small business where, 85% of all of our revenue and major opportunities and the breakthroughs have come through this strategy. So I'm all in on it, is what I'm saying. Step 1, what are you trying to get done? What is that big thing that would create the order of magnitude, the 10x breakthrough? And the reason that I like 10x thinking is not only does it sound very cool and like it's something that's come out of Silicon Valley, which is very edgy right now, but it's often easier to pull off something big and exciting than something small and mediocre, because no one wants to support or engage or get involved with something small and mediocre. It's like if you're looking to recruit a team member and you're like, oh yeah, I kind of run this dinky-die little small thing and it's nothing much and da-da-da. No one wants to support you or work with you or come and join that team at a discount. As opposed to, people do want to work with a company, even if it's a small budding company with a great vision and a great leader that's, communicating that vision, etc. So, playing 10x often just makes everything a lot easier. So
there's, the wonderful quote, shoot for the stars and land on the moon. So if you're running for 10x and you get 5x.
Yeah. Oh, I'm I've recently come across some thinking where I've changed my thinking around shoot for the stars and you'll hit the moon.
Oh, controversial. Glenn goes on to explain why he no longer agrees with that saying, plus he shares his other 8 tried and tested steps in creating profitable partnerships. And I've got to tell you, it was 60 minutes of absolute marketing gold. And you can listen to the whole lot as often as you like by joining the Small Business Big Marketing Club over at crankmymarketing.com. It's just $67 a month. And if you can't make that back plus multiples more each month, then I am doing something wrong. Righto, my top 3 attention grabbers thanks to the Key Person of Influence program and Cornerstone. Attention grabber number 1, spend the proper amount of time making your brand or your brands pop, making them stand out in the crowded marketplace in which I'm sure they operate. Head over to burleighbrewing.com.au and check out how Peter has done that with the Burleigh Brewing brand and each of the individual beer brands. Attention grabber number 2, story makes brand development simple. I loved what Peter said about that. If you want to learn more, take a listen to my interview with Dave Musson of Saddleback Leather. I'll put a link in the show notes. He explains exactly how to bring stories to life in your business. And attention grabber number 3, I love this one. Celebrate staff anniversaries, right? Celebrate the little wins and the big wins. We do that all the time inside the Small Business Big Marketing Forum. But I love celebrating staff anniversaries as well. What grabbed your attention? Head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/353 and let me know.
What have you got to lose?
Oh yeah. It's that time of the show for one simple yet effective marketing idea that you can implement right now. One that won't cost you a fortune and that might just generate you more awareness, more inquiry, and ultimately more sales. Ka-ching! I call today's idea the Let's Get Weird marketing campaign. Now, as the business owner, you have to constantly be thinking of new and creative ways to get the word out about that beautiful business of yours. And sometimes being a little weird can pay off big time. So if you're not afraid to think outside the square every now and then in order to build brand buzz and get in front of more prospects, then my Let's Be Weird marketing campaign is perfect for you. Here's my 3 steps to getting a little weird in your marketing. Step 1. Think about a campaign you could launch to promote your business that some might find a little weird or out of the ordinary. To get an idea of what I mean, take a listen to my interviews with LA fashion designer Melissa Coker, who created a video of strangers wearing her clothes and kissing for the first time. Yeah, it's weird. Or takeaway food franchisee Arthur Greeno, who loves nothing more than breaking Guinness World Records to get his business noted. #weird. Step 2. Decide on the weird campaign you want to move forward with. Your goal should be to come up with an idea that gets people's attention but also does a fair job of promoting your business. And it should make you feel a little bit scared, a little bit uncomfortable. Step 3. Do some pre-promotion leading up to the launch of your weird marketing campaign. Package it up and release it to the world. And here's my pro tip. Try documenting the campaign on video and posting it to YouTube so that it has a long afterlife. As always, there'll be links in the show notes to any resources over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com/353, including links to those 2 interviews I mentioned earlier. And if you'd like help implementing any of the ideas I share in this segment, go ahead and join the Small Business Big Marketing Club over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where I'll personally support you every day on your marketing journey. So, what have you got to lose? Well, that sadly almost wraps up another episode of the Small Business Big Marketing Show. But don't worry, there's plenty of marketing gold coming your way in the weeks ahead. Next week, we meet the founder of Brook Farm, an award-winning macadamia farm up in beautiful Byron Bay. What's going on up there? Something in the water. You know, over the years, I've spoken with some amazing business owners. One memorable one was with the LA fashion designer I mentioned earlier, Melissa Coker. Here she is talking about where to look for those all-important ideas.
We've always kind of done things out of the box and tried to leverage our creativity as much as we could, especially being a small brand and, having more of a limited budget when we're putting these things together. And it really is, you have to rely on your creativity. So I think that First Kiss was sort of a prime example of the fact that, it's all about ideas and getting people engaged in sharing your content. When we set out to do this film in particular, I was studying a lot about the success of sites like BuzzFeed and Upworthy, and not only why they were working, but how they were working. And one thing that really stood out to me was the fact that they'd sort of hit on this idea that emotional content is a way to really connect with people out there and also to get them to share your content and your ideas. Yeah. So, this has been a phenomenal example of that really, illustrating that point.
Oh, good advice there from Melissa. Emotions in marketing are everything. You'll find my full interview with Melissa plus hundreds more over at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, or feel free to subscribe on iTunes. I'd love you to do that. Also love to hear from you. Flick us an email, tim@timreid, reid.com.au, or hit me up on Twitter @TimboReid. Also, strongly suggest grabbing a free hard copy of the Key Person of Influence book over at keypersonofinfluence.com/Timbo, but only if you want to become more valuable, visible and connected in your industry. And be sure to check out Cornerstone if the idea of a virtual assistant excites the hell out of you, or if you want to come on my next Philippines outsourcing tour in March 2017. I'd love to see you on it. Seats are limited and they tend to go relatively quickly. You'll find all the details over at cornerstonebusinesssolutions.com.au. If you love this show, tell another business owner that could do with a little bit of marketing love. Go on, do it now. Until next week, I'm Timbo Reid. Thanks for listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show. May your marketing be the best marketing. Bye for now.